Well, hello and welcome to today's module. Today we're talking about the Temple of Moses, and there's a number of things to look at in the Temple of Moses that speak a lot about worship, and they talk entirely about the work of Christ and how Christ fulfilled all of these areas and how they apply to us as worshipers. But the easiest way for me to do this is to actually kind of go there with you. So I'm doing this through a little Zoom video recording, and I'm going to flip my screen and you're going to take a look at the temple with me. So let's jump right in. We're looking at the Temple of Moses. So here we go. Let's get in here and take a look at this together. So what we're looking at here is a pretty simple view of the Temple of Moses. I want you to notice a couple of things. The gate was located on the east side. The gate, if you can look at the bottom of the image there, that was the east side. So the northern side would have been over here, which would have been to the left of the holy place. The south would have been to the right of the holy place. And then where the word tabernacle is written, that would have been the west. So that's exactly how the tribes would have lined up. They would have surrounded the tabernacle when they would have set this up. And the priests, the Levitical priests, would have done this. They would have kind of put everything together and done their setup and tear down kind of deal. And then the tribes would have surrounded. Now, all the tribes would have waited, and Moses would have gone in, and the priests would have been doing their deal. And then Moses would have gone into the holy place whenever fire would have appeared and God wanted to meet with his people. And Moses would go into the most holy place. So let's take a look at each little area because we're going to discover a lot of things. So here's the gate, the entrance to the temple. Again, who is the gate? Jesus is the gate. He is the door. Enter his gates with thanksgiving. So there's something we can take away from this. When you enter the gates, it was a physical thing. As you were coming into the tabernacle to meet with God, it was important, as the psalmist said, to come in with thanksgiving. Why? Because you're meeting with God and God's going to forgive sin. So the whole premise of me bringing an offering was to be reconciled to God. And I came with thanksgiving because I knew that God would accept my offering and that he would forgive me of my sin. How powerful is that for worship? Okay, so this is the gate. Then we have the altar of sacrifice. It would have been a brazen altar, and the priest would have put the lamb or the offering on there. That signified atonement. It was the first thing you would have encountered. When you walked into the temple, you would have seen smoke rising from the offering. And that's a reminder for us that Christ had to be offered on our behalf. Atonement was necessary for us. Okay? You move a little deeper in, and then you come to the laver. Now, this would have been a little pool of water where the priests would wash their hands and sometimes wash their feet after they had presented the offerings. It also symbolizes baptism, cleansing of the priest before they would enter into the holy place. Okay, so now we're going into the holy place, and this would be a curtain that you would walk through, and it would be covered all around, so you wouldn't see the outside in this environment. It would have been dark, but it would have been illuminated by the candlestick, or what's known as the menorah, and that represents the illumination of the Holy Spirit. On the other side of that, you would have seen the table of shewbread. Now, there would have been approximately 6 loaves on one side of it, 6 loaves on the other, representing the 12 tribes of Israel. And each loaf would have represented the word, which is Jesus, the sustenance. He is the bread of life. And then as you go closer to the Holy of Holies, or the most holy place, there would have been a veil curtain separating this area. But before that, there would have been a semi-tall structure, which would represent the altar of incense. And they would have used frankincense and myrrh and different ingredients that were given to Moses. And that would have burned and created an aroma and created also smoke, which is symbolized in the book of Revelation as the prayers of the saints. So it's called the altar of incense, but it represents prayer. And then as you go through the veil, now you would have access. This was only accessible once a year through by the high priest. And it would have been done on Yom Kippur, and they would have gone through the veil once a year and sprinkled blood 7 times on the right side of the ark. You can see the ark depicted here, the Ark of the Covenant, 2 cherubs facing each other. And this whole thing would have been dark, and you probably wouldn't have even been able to see anything. But this represented intimacy with the Father, intimacy with God. So when we come through the gate, we see enter his gates with thanksgiving, enter his courts with praise. But ultimately, what God was teaching us was a deeper sense of connection with us, which would have been worship. And as we look through the layout of their tabernacle, we see that Jesus is the way, right? We come in through him, access to the Father. He is the truth. The Spirit illuminates the Word. The Word reveals who God is and his plan for us. But he is the life. We are sustained by him, and we are intimately able to connect with him one-on-one in our worship, in our connection with him, because of what Christ has done. So I wanted to show you that because when we read sometimes the Psalms, we don't quite get enough context of what this thing would have looked like when you walk into it. But Jesus is represented by all of these things. And ultimately, when he tore the veil, he made us the very temple that he would abide in. And within us, now he illuminates our hearts. His word is alive and well within us, right? He has saved us and baptized us, and we have salvation and the assurance of eternity with him. Isn't that powerful stuff? I hope that opens and broadens your idea when you read the Psalms, and when you talk about entering the gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise, that you would see that picture of intimacy at the back there, where the Father just wants to meet with us heart to heart, one-on-one, in an intimate level in the temple. And now he's made us, because God no longer dwells in buildings made by man, but he now dwells in the hearts of his people. And I hope that inspires you as a worship leader. That's all we have for this module today.